Morning, everybody. I was pausing because in my head I'm going, is it a good morning? Good morning, good morning, not good morning, good morning, good morning.
The sun is out.
The sun is out. Traffic, sorry, we record on Wednesday, spoiler. And there was an accident by Ross Road and it was like ridiculous traffic this morning. Mm-hmm. So maybe good, maybe not good. And
I see where you're going.
We're waffling back and forth because on Sunday, Jeff, you had us talk about goodness, right? Or you were sharing about goodness, having us ponder and think and reflect on the goodness of God. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that came out in that is just how subjective that word can be, right? Yeah. Like for the people involved in that accident this morning, there's no way they're walking away from that going, this is a good day. Yeah, right? What a good morning. For most of you who are stuck in that traffic, you're probably late for work. Or going, this is not a good start to the day. And so, but it is a beautiful morning out there, all of that aside, and there's a lot to be thankful for. And it's quite reasonable if you're coming to today going, it's a good day.
It's a good day.
It is a good day. And, but we can debate back and forth all like whether or not something is good all day long. But to jump right into kind of the meat of some things, right? Romans 8:28 was a key verse for you. I will read it, Jeff, and then maybe you can just give, while either of you just give, a quick thought that comes to mind, and then I'll as you know, interrupt and jump in here, there, and everywhere. But Romans 8:28 says this, that we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Now, you could go a lot of different ways with that verse because I think he's saying about 4 or 5 different things in there. But for the two of you, where do you want to start?
Any thoughts, Kevin?
I think it is. As we define good, and as we look at this verse, like you pointed out, sometimes we misunderstand what this is trying to say. I really love that you pointed to Joseph, because that really drove this home for me, because if we were to define good or like goodness or whatever, we would probably say once Joseph went through a lot of difficulty and trial, and then God remembered him, and Pharaoh remembered, or the other guy remembered him, and he got elevated, and he got pulled out of prison. Everything was all good. Done. End of story. We would say that's good. Done. You don't need to finish the story, right? But in order for us to understand, I think, the larger point of Romans 8:28, that God is actually making a greater, grander good than what we would define it as, then I would say the story of Joseph had to be finished. Because if we would have stopped there, we would have said Joseph had all of his troubles taken care of. He was in a cushy, wonderful job. Now, he was settled. But in order for the goodness of God to be shown, God put him in that position so that he could save Egypt and the surrounding countries. That was necessary to show the goodness of God and his larger plan. God also had him confront that moment and the issue between him and his brothers so that God's glory could be revealed and that the better, gooder plan could come about. But so that's I think sometimes where I feel like we look at Romans 8:28, that all things work together for the good of those who love God, right? Okay, so what does that mean? That means whatever I define as everything kind of turned out in the end, right? And you said that doesn't necessarily mean everything is going to be good for everybody in the end, but it does mean that God's goodness and his great plan is going to be revealed. And I think that's why connecting Joseph and Romans 8:28 was unbelievably profound for me. So thank you for doing that, Jeff.
Thank you for that reflection. That's really good. Sorry, as you were talking, Hebrews 11 comes to mind too. And there's a passage in there, a verse in there that says, many of these, or most of these, or all of these, I forget. I have to look it up and read it actually. But they did not receive what they had hoped for.
Yeah.
You know, their faith, that they didn't see the goodness yet, and they died, right? And so that just kind of further reinforces that the good is God's goodness, and His bigger plan that's bigger than any of us. So like, I may not see my part in it, but I can trust that my part is important and good in the big picture, even though it might not feel good to me right now. You were saying something?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for taking us to Hebrews 11, because part of what I love so much about that chapter is that you have all of these people who are held up as good examples.
Yeah.
And if you read the whole backstory of their life, it's either so unremarkable it's not worth sharing, or it's a little morally complicated, right? And there's very few of them who we would go, yeah, that person's a hero start to finish.
Yeah.
Like, they were good through and through. And yet, God, I think He views all of us, right, through that Jesus lens, which kind of distorts things, where He can look at things and go, yeah, because of my son, that is good. And we can lose sight of that, that it's only God's goodness through and through, but that changes things. What I was originally going to jump in on, though, and I don't know if you noticed this, Kevin, you didn't read back the same verse that I read, and that's partly where translation nerd, the translation nerd in me goes.
I specifically jumped to a different version just because.
But I think that's where this verse is so easy to. There's so many different perspectives on it, because not every translation comes from the same. Makes explicit that it is, God doing the work. Sometimes it's easy to think, okay, this thing happened and that thing happened and that thing happened, and God will use that in a good way, which I would say is true. But I think also in what I read, God's the one who's doing the work, bringing this about and this about and this about. And which is it? Maybe both, right? Maybe stuff just happens. Maybe God's always doing stuff. Maybe it's just our perspective gets a little clouded and we don't always see clearly where this is coming from. But God's with us in it all. Therefore, we can weather it and it can be good. And it's something that He can redeem for His goodness, or with His goodness, for His goodness. And that's, I think, important for us to remember when we, whichever side of the traffic accident we're on, right? Whether we're the one in it or the one who's held up by it or the one going, whoa, there's an accident, because we all do that too, right? Where we just stand on the side of the highway going, whoa, that was amazing, which is why NASCAR is so popular. That's for another time. And so, right, whichever perspective, however we are in the midst of looking at the goodness, though, it's really all because of God that it's good. And I think that's what you are trying to help us see. As we reflect on, hey, God is good, God is in us, there, and God can, use us to increase goodness in the world around us. And so,
and I mean, just as you reflect on, okay, what is good? We don't think of suffering as good, especially in North America. Suffering is not good. We don't, and yet Jesus entered our suffering, right? And it was through suffering that He did His plan, and so suffering, God can use it for good, and so we truly can say, in the midst of suffering, God is good, right? And that's tough. I still struggle with that, because I want to avoid suffering, and I don't like to see people suffering, and that's a hang up for a lot of people, right? That how can God be good and suffering exist? Well, He entered it, right? So. Yeah,
and He can redeem it, but we have a role in that, right? On how our own perspective of it. Yeah, and that's why I think our perspective is so often something we need to be checking on.
Yes.
Do we have a godly perspective, which you keep bringing us back to, which is excellent. But because it can be pointless if we're just like, oh, this sucks, and we don't we don't think about how it could be useful. It can be very pointless. It can be very harmful, and also. The extreme other way would be that we would go, hey, suffering's good, so hey, that person's suffering, I'm not going to do anything because that's good for them.
That's definitely not the takeaway either.
Right. Yeah. So, there's two ways to go with it, or like two extremes. And I think
Like so many things.
So many
right?
things,
Yeah,
right? And,
yeah.
and yet we walk the middle, go, okay, this could be good, potentially. But speaking of things that really, I don't even say could be good, are good. We've got some good things coming up, and one of them is the Ladies Banquet. Tickets have been on sale for two Sundays or one Sunday now? It was just this last Sunday.
It was just one on sale this last Sunday.
But there's not a lot of Sundays left to get them because it is coming up on November 24th, and I am unsure of the day that the caterer needs the numbers, but you know what? Just to be safe, get your tickets this Sunday. And I think they're hoping for 100. They've got not lots left, but because they're going fast, but there's still tickets left.
Yeah.
Get them this Sunday,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a wonderful kickoff to the Christmas season, Christmas celebration on the 24th, and you aren't going to want to miss it. And neither will your neighbors or friends, and so bring people and get tickets, and that would be very good. We're continue. That will be on sale Sunday. On Friday though, 1:30, right, is Bill Warner's memorial. So make sure you don't miss that. It'll be a day to gather and celebrate and the goodness of God that we saw in Bill's life, and to stand alongside Anne and family and be there for that. What else do we need to be aware of this week, Jeff? You've got the list in front of you there.
Soup Sunday. So
Oh,
this Sunday, you mentioned, get your tickets for the women's thing, but we're also having a soup lunch after the service, so that will be in here. This is the fellowship room, and so that's why we're sitting here, so to remind you visually, audioly, so that you can stay after and just join us, and that'll be a really good time. There's also another thing on Sunday is the shoe boxes.
Yes. Thanks for remembering that for us. It's the day to bring in shoe boxes. We even had someone from the community stop in the office yesterday and ask, like they don't want to miss getting it in. Like, get it here by Sunday. So that's good. It's wonderful to see them piling up. We're basically going to you make a brick wall and lock Lori in her office. I think that's how we're starting this.
Behind the
so
shoe boxes.
Bring him in. Let's trap her. No, it's just good to see that they're coming in. A little bit further out on the horizon, but going to be here very fast, is Light Up, which is December 1st, Friday night. We are looking for volunteers for that. I know in the past it's been a very chilly night, and many of you have come out to help, and you've braved the cold. We're working on some improvements to help it be a little bit warmer in our booth, but we would love for a half dozen, 8 people to volunteer to help with that. And if you're free that night and would like to come hang out with the community and spend time with kids who are decorating a wooden Christmas tree ornament, it'd be great to have your help with that. So talk to me on Sunday or shoot me an email during the week, and I'd love to get your help with that. Anything else?
I think that's it on my list.
I would just maybe add in, there's a lot, like Friday, a couple things on Sunday. There's a lot to remember. I think even that is another thing. This Saturday is Remembrance Day as well too. So if you have the time, or if you're able to, either take in a service or just take some time to contemplate with your family throughout the weekend, just to be thankful and to remember.
Very good. Well said. Thanks for reminding us of that, Kevin. Other than that, hopefully we'll see you Sunday, and enjoy your week, and may you find something in it that you can say, that is good.